Hello, chapter head! I am so pumped. These are going to be your videos to give you a quick debrief on what to teach in the lesson, walk you through a few of the exercises that you'll be leading the group through. And so I'll go through the slides and we'll rapid fire so you know exactly what to do. And you can watch these every single time before your lesson so you have a great understanding of what you're about to teach everyone. So as you can see here, make this full screen in case that's helpful. Is you're going to introduce yourself because this is the very first session. Maybe they met you at the info session, but now this is the first really like teaching session. And so maybe put your and your chapter heads' names here. You're going to walk them through maybe the overview. Maybe they didn't attend the info session. So maybe they want to hear more about what the Believe Initiative is. And you can walk them through some of those details and let them know how this works, that they have to attend these weekly sessions. They need to show up and learn these leadership skills, and that they are then required to take those leadership skills and apply it to their Believe Passion project, which is where they connect their passion and problem together. And of course, the other mandatory element that they must do is that they have to complete their project and present at the Believe Inspiration Fair. And so to get them excited about that, mention that they're going to, by the end of this, you guys will be, as a chapter, selecting one representative to go on to that national collective fair. So there'll be bonus workshops they can attend, and we'll give you guys the dates that then you can pass along to your chapters. And so I want to spend some time here because this is where you want to really give everyone the full details. Let them know what materials are provided. You would have seen in the resources folder everything we have for members. And many of the exercises you'll walk through will have a workbook. So tell them even on the spot, like, hey, go download your workbook. If you haven't already, everything is in there that you may need. And again, stressing milestones, really giving people a big overview here. So giving them this checklist, which is also in their workbook. So that'll be good. So they have attend sessions. Members must attend sessions. They must complete their 2 assignments, which is the Passion Project outline early on, and then the Passion Project media submission, which takes place just before the Inspiration Fair. Then they have to actually complete their Believe Passion Project. They have to present at the Inspiration Fair, and they must complete the pre-course and post-course survey, all to receive their certificate of going through this program. So giving everyone that good overview will have them clear on exactly what's expected of them. You might want to spend some time describing what a passion project is so people really grasp that as an understanding. And then we're going to get into the content. So if you have time and people have the link and it's easy to access, maybe you get them to fill out the pre-survey during the session if you're virtual and you just click it and have people send it, or you just make sure that you let them know that this is required of them that day, and whether they do it after the session, you can find a way to put it in your classroom portal or make sure you email it out or whatever you plan to do, but everyone must do the pre-course survey. This slide you'll see every time, just the overview and timeline, give them an overview of what to expect for that lesson for that day. And you'll start with an icebreaker. This gets people engaged, get people talking, encourage people to use the chat. There'll always be a different icebreaker every single session. And then because we're going to be diving in, like this whole session is really to help them think about what their Believe Passion project is going to be. And so we want to put them over here of like, what problems do you want to solve? And you'll see a number of the exercises have them focusing on what problems they want to solve. And then we transition to kind of like, what passions do you have? So in this point, you'll talk them through, what problems and get people to share. And that's really the magic of having people kind of add on to each other's ideas and spark ideas in other people. So once they think about what problems they might want to solve, you'll then walk them through a problem-solving cycle that is like a framework that exists. And it has these 5 steps of identify the issue, define, evaluate, act, and see. And they're all clearly defined there. And you'll see down here for slides, there's always notes for you as the chapter head to be able to reference and we give you some speaking points or some nonverbal cues to reinforce kind of what you should do on each slide. So you'll have that as well. Once you go through that problem-solving cycle, now you're actually going to go through each step with them as far as you can go, because obviously you're not, creating, like you're not actually acting on the spot to execute the project, but we want them to identify the problem. And so here you want them to actually begin to think about like, okay, I talked about some of the problems I wanted to solve earlier. What about that problem? How do I narrow down exactly what that problem is? And sometimes they may have to go and do some research following the session, or maybe they're just going to talk to their friends and like more clearly define what that problem is. Because if they say, well, I want to help with homelessness. Okay, well, what about homelessness? Is it actually feeding the homeless, or is it keeping the homeless warm during the winter, or is it giving them access to jobs? Like being really clear on the problem that they want to solve. So that way it's not just general, but actually a little bit more specific so they know exactly what that thing is that they're tackling. And so we want to encourage them to think about that and give that example maybe about the homelessness of like, is it homelessness? Is it feeding? Is it staying warm? Is it access to jobs? What is it? So really making sure they're clear on that problem. Then you can actually have them think about those problems, write them in their workbook, and then you're actually going to get them to talk with each other, get into breakout rooms, get partners, whatever, and have them have a discussion, say what your problem is that you want to solve, and then make sure that the partners then have to, like whoever they're partnered up with, says, okay, either asks a tough question of like, what is that specifically? Or maybe they add their own input of, here's the problem I see in that thing you just talked about. And then that way they get ideas from each other. Then they switch roles. So maybe the first person now, or the person who was giving advice before is now the one that says, okay, here's my problem. And then now they've switched roles. So the other person adds layers to that person's problem. So once they've clearly identified the problem, well, now we're going to bring them back and we're going to actually help them define maybe more of what their project could be. So they have the problem, and there's a workbook exercise where they put their problem in the center circle. And then we want them to put their passions all around that problem. So then that way, students and members can start to think about, okay, here are all the passions I have or things I'm enthusiastic about. And how can I use sports to be connected to homelessness? Or how can I use video games to connect to help solve the problem of feeding the homeless? Or how can I use, and you'll see here in this example. And so encourage them to write down all the things that they're enthusiastic about, anything that they enjoy doing, and then see if there's a way to connect that thing to their main problem. And so this is really just a fun thought exercise of almost like, how can we mash everything together and try each one of them out? Encourage them to try each one of them and then pick the best one from there, which is this step 3. They'll actually now shift from just ideas to actually like, okay, let's pick the solution. Let's like actually go and run with this idea. And because this is a big project, there'll be multiple steps, but maybe they can just begin to think about what are those very first action steps? What do they need to do right now to get on their way? And so you'll see in the notes down here, it says, ask students to write the first 2 steps they can take to begin. So you'll encourage them to do that. And now they have their, hopefully, first 2 steps. They are clear on their problem. Now, I will say that this is a really big task to come up with your Believe Passion Project idea. So encourage them to keep talking with each other, maybe book a meeting with you as the chapter head, so that way they can really narrow down their project, because we don't want them to feel like they don't know what it is for too long, or they won't be able to move forward and be wrapped up in time. So let them know by the end of the session, like if you don't know what it is, book a meeting with me, your chapter head, or go reach out to the BLC admin, which is your student directors, or myself. And so make sure that they really feel comfortable reaching out, and try to encourage them as much as possible. Then we're going to have them, get some more spark of inspiration of ideas. And so there's an ideas booklet in the extra resources for the members. There's also a bunch of videos online of other passion projects. And we actually put down here in this link, a lot of projects can be found on our passion project playlist on YouTube, and we linked it here. So either give that to the students on the spot or give it to them as a resource following your session so that they can go and watch those after the fact. Now, at the beginning, you mentioned about milestones of like what they have to hit, that everyone has to present at the Inspiration Fair. And so here, now that they know what their project is, show them where they'll be presenting. And we give you an example to show both an in-person and a virtual Inspiration Fair. Once they have that, they should have a good understanding. Hopefully they're not too overwhelmed. Every session ends with reflection questions that they can write in their workbooks. And then you give them their next steps. And you always, it's highlighted in pink here, and I should have maybe made note of that earlier. Highlighted in pink is always where you input your specific stuff. So you'll have a specific communication platform, whether that's a Google Classroom or a Team or something, and maybe where to follow you on your social media. And so that they have their next steps. And then where they can contact people if they did want to follow up for anything that you talked about earlier that day. Then you'll upload the extra resources related to that lesson, maybe you'll upload some of the slides or anything that you want to help support your members, and then make sure that they know when the next meeting is so they can come back and get back on track for that next step. Hopefully this helps you understand what to do in session 1. Again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us, BLC Admin, and we're so excited. Good luck.